Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1, or shall I say, Stop and Go F2, because that's what we're here to talk about this morning. The F2 from the Italian Grand Prix, and my, what a day of motorsport we are having so far. The Formula 3 Championship Decider was incredible this morning. There's a video about that already out on the channel, so check that one out if you haven't already. And Formula 2 had a lot to live up to after that race, and they certainly did. Another incredible race from Monza. We'll talk about all of it in a little bit. The F1's got a lot to live up to later on today. And of course, we'll have coverage of that as well. Before we get into it, like and subscribe. Of course, you know those are the rules. And big shout out to our members, Dakota, The Joyous James, Robin Myers, and Cinnamon Strudel. If you want to become a member, there's a link in the description. Let's get into this though, starting with the Formula 2 sprint race of yesterday, where we saw Fittipaldi on pole, Cordeal alongside, and as the lights go out, Fittipaldi has a good lead there, but further back, Ollie Goethe, who has had his call-up this week for replacing Colapinto, had a big old crash, which brings out the safety car, but just before the safety car was called, Pepe Marti was able to take the lead. So Goethe is out, but as is O'Sullivan. Antonelli also caught up in that incident, so he had front wing damage and a puncture. The weekend highs and lows for Antonelli, let's say. Crashes in FP1, gets announced as Mercedes driver for next year, puncture in the F2 sprint. O'Sullivan, actually, I think he was labelled as the cause of the issue, hitting both Goethe and Antonelli. Safety car ends on lap 4. Marti leaving it really late on that restart, loses the lead to Fittipaldi, but then Fittipaldi locks up into turn 1 and gives the place right back to Pepe Marti. Further back, both Victor Martins and Ollie Bearman are able to pass Fittipaldi for P2 and P3, and Bearman instantly putting the pressure onto Martins, and by lap 5 he overtakes him, Bearman up to P2. Pepe Marti goes deep into turn 1, and Bearman then is able to take the lead on lap 7, so a couple laps there. Bearman flying at this point. Pepe Marti, though, struggling now as Victor Martins goes past him. He goes later on for a huge dive bomb on Martins, but can't make it stick and forces both of them off the road. Martins P2 and Marti in third at this point. Dirksen had a fantastic weekend. He passes Marti for P4 on lap 11. Gabriel Bortoleto enters the top 10 on lap 12. Martins has the fastest lap of the race. He's chasing down Ollie Bearman in the closing section of this race. Dirksen is up past... who was in third at that point? Was it Marti? It must have been Marti. Passes Marti for P3 on lap 13. And then Aaron, he taps Maloney and damages his own front wing, falls down the order massively in the closing sections. And as we go on to the final lap, Zane Maloney passes Fittipaldi for P5. As we cross the line, Oliver Bearman takes his second win of the season. Victor Martins in P2, Dirksen a very good P3, Marti is 4th, Maloney 5th, Crawford 6th, Fittipaldi 7th, but then the big story coming out of here is we had a tie for 8th place. Gabriel Bortoleto and good old comfy balls Dennis Hauger, they crossed the line at the exact same time. So 8th place gives out 1 point. They've decided to just half that and give both Bortoleto and Hauger half a point each to end this race. A very good sprint race here. It looks like Prema have finally started to understand the car, because both Prema drivers also looking good in the feature race. Bit too late, lads. But, you know, means well for next year for whoever might be in that Prema seat. We know for sure it will not be Bearman or Antonelli, because both of them are F1 bound. So it'll be a brand new Prema team for next year. I'm hoping Arvid Lindblad might make the move up. We'll have to wait and see. That's next year's problem. Anyway, let's go to the feature race now. We have Zane Maloney on pole. Championship leader Isaac Hadjar is alongside in P2. As for the rest of our championship contenders, Gabriel Bortoleto is P2 in the championship before this race. He starts 22nd and last after a big old mistake in qualifying saw him in the gravel. Paul Aaron is third in the championship now. He was a championship leader for quite some time, but a string of bad races has seen him fall down to third. but he also starts this race in third, so a chance to make up good points for Paul Aron. Richard Verschoor stalls on the grid, so he has to move from pit lane, and as we start the race, it's actually a slow start from Isaac Hadjar as Paul Aron gets past him and is challenging for P1 against Zane Maloney, but then Pepe Marti locks up and goes right into the back of Paul Aron, giving Zane Maloney a huge lead and forcing Aron out of the race. Meanwhile, Bearman and Antonelli, the two Prema teammates, they have made their way up. I think Bearman gained 6 places, Antonelli gained 5. They are now second and third. Antonelli coming alongside to challenge Bearman for P2. Bearman is able to keep the position, and this is when the safety car comes out for Paul Aron, who is out of this race. So a good chance to make up points has turned to nothing for Paul Aron. The man who started the year being one of the most lucky drivers has ended the year being one of the most unlucky drivers. A string of bad races for Paul Aron continues. Meanwhile, Dennis Hauger, good old comfy balls, has got a puncture. The safety car ends on lap 3. It wasn't a long safety car because Paul Aron's car was pretty easy to move out the way. Maloney gets a good restart, but Ollie Bearman is all over the back of him. Further back, Hadjar passes Dirksen for P4 on lap 3, but 2 laps later, Dirksen retakes 4th from Hadjar. We got a 10-second penalty for Marty for causing the collision with Paul Aron. That's pretty straightforward there. Dirksen then passes Antonelli for P3 on lap 6, and then as lap 6 starts, that is the lap where you have to pit, of course, in the F2 feature race, but you are not allowed to pit before lap 6. So on the turn on lap 6, both Bearman and Martins come in. Hadjar passes past Antonelli for P3 on lap 7, and then we get a few more in the pits. Maloney, Dirksen, Hadjar, Antonelli, Crawford, O'Sullivan, Cordeal and Fittipaldi all pits then. Comfy balls, Dennis Hauger though, he's out. I don't know who hit him, but he's out. Meanwhile, Ollie Bearman passes Dirksen, and the safety car comes out for Hauger's car. We get a lot of activity in the pits now. Bortoleto, Gerfer, Marti, Verschoor, Villagomez and Miata all pit under safety car, and Bortoleto is now the leader of all the cars who have pitted after starting dead last. I believe he was in 6th place at this point. There was 5 cars ahead of him, the 5 cars on the alternative strategy who hadn't pit at that point, but Bortoleto, the lead car of the guys who hadn't pit, massively benefiting from that safety car. At this point, the race leader is Ollie Gerfer, his first F2 weekend, and he has a few laps in the lead. And as the safety car ends, Gerfer is able to get away well and keeps the lead. Meanwhile, further back, Bortoleto is pushing hard. He passes Coolan and Stanek. Coolan, by the way, is dreadful. Bortoleto then passes Verschoor for P4. Bearman passes Stanek for P7, but then Stanek is able to take the place back pretty quickly. Miney is able to take the lead from Gerfer. Dirksen is off. Dirksen had a hell of a race. He was so quick. His straight line speed was incredible. I imagine he was running a very low downforce setup though, because it seemed like every time he went into a corner, he just wouldn't stop. So he would spend a lot of time going very quickly, getting to the corner, going off, losing a place, then trying to get it back, and doing that over and over and over again. Bortoleto is up to P3 at this point on lap 13. Bearman passes Correa, but then Martins passes them both, and then he's up to P6. And then on lap 15 of 30, the halfway point, Bortoleto takes the lead from his teammate Kush Miney. Meanwhile, further back, there's a fantastic freeway battle between Victor Martins, Ollie Bearman and Kimi Antonelli. They're battling over what was 6th on the road. I think it would turn into 4th once everyone had pitted. Bortoleto now is in the lead and is just insanely quick, setting fastest lap after fastest lap, really just pushing hard. Fantastic stuff from him. We see some very aggressive defences from Ollie Bearman on Kimi Antonelli on lap 23, but 1 lap later, Antonelli goes round the outside of Bearman, an aggressive move of his own, pushes Bearman off into the gravel and allows Dirksen to pass Bearman as well, so Bearman losing 2 places in 1 chicane there. Dirksen would then pass Antonelli for P6 on lap 25, and Dirksen with this incredible speed caught the back of Martins, goes alongside Martins into the 2nd chicane, And then as they enter that, Martins just pushes him out wide. Dirksen goes off the track, and as he comes back on, Antonelli is able to take that place yet again. Bearman nearly got Dirksen as well, but was a little bit too far back. Meanwhile, we go back to Antonelli, and Antonelli now has passed Victor Martins, a P5 on lap 26. But as we cross the line, the winner of this race is Gabriele Bortoleto, who started last and finished first. Obviously massively benefiting from the safety car, but nonetheless an incredible race from him, and is now just 10.5 points off the back of Isack Hadjar for the F2 Championship. A championship battle is definitely on here. We could see Gabriele Bortoleto, he won the F3 Championship last year, he could win the F2 Championship this year, and you never know, he could be in F1 next year. His manager is Fernando Alonso, who was seen at the Sauber factory last week trying to get Bortoleto a seat in the Sauber team. And winning a race after starting last place certainly is not going to hinder that chance. I'd love to see Bortoleto in Formula 1. I think he's incredible. He definitely deserves a chance. The only thing that might hold him back is he is part of the McLaren Junior Driver Academy. So I think there could be something there. Do they really want to let him go to Sauber that was going to become Audi? But you know what? For me, for Sauber, it's between Bottas and Bortoleto. And I'm not sure which way they're going to go. I'm not sure which way they're going to go. But if they want to take a risk and have a little bit of fun, give Bortoleto a chance, because I love him. I think he's great. Anyway, the rest of the race, Maloney was P2, great race from him. Richard Verschoor in third. Kimi Antonelli was fourth. Fifth for Dirksen. Sixth for Victor Martins. Seventh is Ollie Bearman. Villa Gomez in eighth. Crawford ninth. Fittipaldi 10th. Isack Hadjar, the championship leader, in 11th place. No points for him this weekend. Well, actually, did he score points in the sprint? I can't remember. 1 second, everyone. I'm going to double check. That's the F3 feature. Race notes. Hadjar, no, he didn't. Didn't score points in the feature. Didn't score points in the sprint. No points at all for Isack Hadjar, championship leader. Lots of points for Gabriele Bortoleto. 25.5 points to be specific there. So Paul Aron may have fallen away, but a new contender has arisen for the Formula 2 Championship. He is my hero of Formula 2 for this weekend. He is the feature race winner. He did go from last to first. His name is Gabriele Bortoleto. What an incredible weekend of racing it's been so far this week. As I said, Formula 3 was incredible. Check that video out if you haven't already. Formula 2, another fantastic race. All that's left now is the Formula 1. I'll be here to talk all about it later on today, so make sure you subscribe for that. Until then, though, have a good one. Goodbye.